Both ChatGPT and Cursor start at exactly $20 a month, and yet one of them can run you 3 times more the moment you scale up. That gap hits hard if you're running heavy agentic workflows. AI coding tools are moving fast right now, so I put ChatGPT and Cursor through 5 head-to-head tests to see who actually wins. The pricing story wasn't what I expected, so stick around because the conditional verdict is where the real decision lives. My name is Brian, and I'm in these tools 12 hours a day, so you don't have to be. Every number in this video traces back to official pricing pages or published community benchmarks both companies will actually stand behind. If you're shipping code daily and paying for an AI tool, the wrong pick costs you real money and real time every single month. Test 1. Cost. The objection I keep hearing is that both tools are $20 a month, so why does pricing even matter? Well, the moment you move off the entry plan, the math changes completely. ChatGPT's mid-tier jumps straight to $200 a month, and if you're not aware of that cliff, you'll feel it hard on your next billing cycle. Okay, so what I looked at was every published plan both companies have on their pricing pages. At entry, it's a dead heat, $20 each, but at mid-tier, Cursor's Pro Plus lands at $60 a month, while ChatGPT's Pro is $200 flat, and that's a real gap. Cursor bundles usage credits into its plans in a way ChatGPT's flat pricing doesn't, so the value math shifts pretty fast for heavy users. Now, before you call the Cursor the winner here, take a second. Cursor's credit system means your actual cost scales with how hard you're hitting the API, so if you're a light user, that mid-tier gap might not matter at all. ChatGPT's flat rate is actually simpler to budget for. The gap is real, but it only bites you if you're running serious agentic volume, and not everyone is doing that. Cost lands as a tie at the entry point, and that's the right call. Both are $20 a month to start. I thought Cursor would pull ahead cleanly, but the credits model makes the comparison genuinely use case dependent, so neither side takes a clean point. Scoreboard: 0 for both, 1 tied. If you need a number to anchor on, it's $20, same on both sides. Test 2. Coding benchmark performance. A solo dev shipping a real feature on a Friday afternoon needs to know which tool actually writes better code, not which one has a prettier marketing page. The number you'd expect to settle, this is right there on Cursor's own leaderboard. Claude Fable 5, Max scoring 70.5 versus GPT 5.6. Sol Max at 67.2. Looks like a clear edge, right? Hold on. What surprised me when I dug into this is that there's no credible independent head-to-head benchmark for these two products. Cursor's Cursor bench numbers are vendor reported, which means Cursor is grading its own homework. ChatGPT has a Rise Labs community figure showing around 85% functional accuracy, but there's no comparable Cursor number to stack against it. I looked hard for a clean comparison and couldn't find one, so both sides are unverified. No winner here. The data just isn't there on either side. Vendor benchmarks, community reports, one-sided figures. None of it holds up as a real head-to-head, so this test is a wash. Scoreboard stays flat. ChatGPT 0, Cursor 0, 2 tied now. Test 3. Speed. Your mid-refactor, you ask your AI tool to touch 4 files, and you're sitting there watching a spinner for 45 seconds while your focus breaks completely. Speed matters because slow responses kill your flow state. And Cursor's own benchmark reports 28 Ausus 3 and 20 tokens per task for GPT 5.6. Sol Max, which sounds like a lot of data, but is it actually a speed number? Okay, so I looked everywhere for a real latency number. Wall clock time, response time, anything verifiable, and I couldn't find a published figure for either ChatGPT or Cursor. The token per task metric from Cursor Bench is an efficiency number, not a speed comparison against ChatGPT's agent, and it's vendor reported on top of that. What's on screen right now is genuinely unverified for both sides. No credible speed data exists for this matchup. Speed is a draw, and I figured at least one company would publish something here. Neither did. The token efficiency metric from Cursor's own leaderboard is interesting, but it doesn't tell you who's faster in your actual workflow, so no point. Goes to either side. 3 tests in, 3 tied, ChatGPT 0, Cursor 0. Alright, so we've got context and deployment still to go. And those two tests are where the tools actually pull apart in ways that matter to your daily workflow. Context in particular could completely change how you feel about the $20 price tie we called earlier, because if one tool can see your whole codebase and the other can't, the price stops being the story. Test 4, context and output limits. What breaks when this goes wrong? You paste a chunk of code into a chat window. The model doesn't know what's in the other 40 files your function depends on, and it gives you an answer that looks right but breaks 3 things downstream. That's not a model intelligence problem. That's a context problem, and it's a real cost in debugging time every single time it happens. What I found here is a pretty clear difference in how each tool handles this. Cursor explicitly markets maximum context windows as a first-class feature. It's built to point at your entire repo. ChatGPT's documentation covers context management, but I couldn't find a specific published window size on the pages I checked. Cursor's whole codebase indexing is a native, built-in thing, while ChatGPT's approach relies more on manual setup or codex integration, and that's a real workflow difference. Context lands as no winner, and I want to be straight about why. Cursor clearly markets this better and has a stronger native story, but I couldn't find a verified, comparable spec to score it cleanly against ChatGPT. So no point gets awarded, even though Cursor looks stronger on paper. 4 tests in, still all tied. ChatGPT 0, Cursor 0. Test 5, deployment and modality. A small team wants to paste a screenshot of a broken UI, have the AI understand it visually, then ship a hosted web app directly from that conversation. That's a real workflow, and if your tool can't do it natively, you're stitching together 3 separate tools to get there. Where your tool lives and what inputs it accepts matters more than most people think. So what I found is that these 2 tools split pretty cleanly by design. Cursor is a fork of VS Code. The agent literally lives inside your editor, with a CLI, native Slack and GitHub PR integrations, and an iPad app. ChatGPT goes wide in a different direction. It handles screenshots and diagrams natively, and its Sites feature lets you build and deploy a hosted web app straight from a chat. Both have desktop and mobile, just different strengths. And look, before you call this for either side, the gap really does depend on what you need. If your whole workflow is inside a code editor and you want deep IDE integration with team tooling, Cursor is the obvious fit. But if you're working across docs, images, and web output in one conversation, ChatGPT's generalist reach is genuinely useful. These aren't the same tool trying to do the same job. They're built for different kinds of developers. Deployment is a tie on breadth. Both are widely available, both have desktop and mobile, and both have unique features the other doesn't match. The verified data shows different flavors, not a winner. That wraps all 5 tests. ChatGPT 0, Cursor 0, 5 tied across the board. So where does ChatGPT win? Paste a screenshot, a diagram, or an error message and it understands it natively. No workaround needed. It can also build and ship a hosted web app through ChatGPT sites without leaving the chat. And for anything outside pure coding, docs, analysis, research, it's the stronger generalist by a clear margin. And where does Cursor win? It's a fork of VS Code, so the agent lives right where your code is with no context switching. It can point at your entire repo and touch multiple files correctly in one operation. It has native Slack and GitHub PR integrations for team workflows, a dedicated CLI, and at $60 a month for Pro Plus. It's meaningfully cheaper than ChatGPT's $200 Pro tier for heavy users. Okay, so here's the honest verdict. I went in thinking there'd be a clear coding winner, and what I actually got was a 5-way tie on the scoreboard. The decision rule is pretty simple. If your work lives inside an editor and you want an agent that can touch your whole codebase, pick Cursor. If you need multimodal input, hosted deployment, or generalist AI in one place, pick ChatGPT. Both start at $20, and that's the only number that matters for most people. Where your code lives is the whole decision. If Cursor is on your radar, you're probably also wondering how it stacks up against GitHub Copilot. and I ran a full comparison on that too. Check out the Cursor versus GitHub Copilot video, and you'll get a much cleaner head-to-head on the in-editor experience, with actual workflow results that this comparison couldn't give you, because the benchmark data just wasn't there.